Ready? Ready to roll? Ready,
Yeah.
Jason?
Let's do it.
You going to watch football the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
5840, requesting assistance. We have a possible 211 in progress at the Bank of America. Bank of America. Located north of Kittredge. We have shots fired.
All units, officer needs help. At the Bank of America, Lower Canyon, north of Kittredge, officer needs help. Bank of America, 911, where's this there?
I'm at a drive-thru right now. I ordered my food 3 times. I asked 4 different times to make it.
You know what's the problem there? I got a man in the pool. He's got his driver stuck in the pump line. What? You're kidding me. I'm telling you, honest to God. You really got to see the boy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of 911-ish. We are here in the beautiful city. No? Fuck up already. We're in the beautiful city of Long Beach today with our friend and police officer, Chris. Say hi, Chris.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
And once again, Jason is with us. Say hi, Jason.
Going to be a great day.
Jason's probably pretty quiet. There's a football game on TV next to us, so he's probably just going to be watching that most of the time, which is fine. That's fine. Do your thing, bud. So, who's your team?
Rams.
Rams?
I'm a homer.
Always, or just because they're in LA?
Nah, pretty much all the time.
Yeah? Chris?
I hate to say it, but a Denver Bronco fan.
That's all right.
Yeah,
A couple of years ago, they did all right.
I did really well that season.
Would you like to tell everybody why you're a Denver Broncos fan? We just heard the story, but did you want to tell everybody?
Yeah, so I played. I convinced my mom once to let me play Pop Warner football, and so the one year I got to play Pop Warner football, I got to play with Mike Shanahan, and
The Mike Shanahan.
the Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've been a Denver Broncos fan because of his dad being the head coach there for a while.
Who was the better athlete?
Oh, clearly he was.
Was he?
I got I think at 4 plays a game, whatever was required of Pop Warner.
And he was in the entire game?
He was pretty much a starter.
Yeah, well, it happens. It happens. What position did you play?
I don't even remember.
No?
It was literally get in there and stand there. Okay, I can do that.
That was me in freshman year because I had no idea like what football was really, like the nuances of football, really.
Right.
And my freshman year, the coach was just like, go play tackle on defense. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? And he's just like, just go run through the hole and tackle the guy with the football. So I was like, okay. So I ran in there and he didn't tell me who to relieve or take out. So I just figured I would do my job, what he told me to do. And I didn't tell the other guy to get out. So he got a penalty and I sat on the bench for two games.
That's like a Forrest Gump move.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned real quick. My dad taught me pretty well. But after that, I learned not to do stupid shit like that.
So your first play, 12 men on the field.
Yep. Very first play. Yeah. And then, it evolved into junior college and I broke my neck and it wasn't good. So, but it's all right. It was fun. It was fun. So, how long have you been a police officer?
I've been a police officer for a little over 20 years. Entered the police academy right after 9/11.
Damn.
Yeah. So actually,
Was it because of 9/11?
No, I was geared up to go to the academy, and just so happened that 9/11 hit, and then we started the academy shortly thereafter. Graduated in the spring of 2002.
So you probably had some interesting, different curriculum than everybody else because right afterwards everything changed and evolved. So was it too soon before like all the terrorism stuff got implemented?
No, it was more. We had a recruit die in the class ahead of ours.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I guess he fell asleep driving home from the academy, and so it changed the program considerably for our class. They weren't allowed to give us discipline papers.
What?
So all they could do is PT us during the academy. We weren't allowed to have any homework at home.
Damn,
Any assignments.
that's nice.
And because I was a police cadet for a little over 3 years before, and a dispatcher for about a year and a half prior to that, I kind of knew all the elements of crime. So
it was easy for you.
it was pretty easy.
Damn, that's nice.
All you got to do is keep up with the PT and you're good to go.
So, were you a cadet or a dispatcher before you were a police officer? I mean, you said both. Which one was first?
Both. So I started out right when I was 18 as a police cadet.
Okay.
And did that for a little over 3 years. So I got to do parking enforcement, go on ride-alongs,
Yeah.
and the admin stuff.
That was all in the South Bay?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you were a dispatcher for the same agency or?
The same agency, we decided to pull out of a regional communication center
Yep.
and start our own dispatch center.
How'd that go?
It went for a little bit.
Yeah. A few years later, back with us.
So I was at my agency. We dispatched for your city for a year while you made the transition.
Oh, I remember that.
I was a dispatcher at that city then.
That's when we learned the term roller.
Yes.
They still use it.
Oh,
Yes,
did they really?
unfortunately.
To this day.
Yeah.
I
they have refused to change the way they are
No, they're not gonna
language-wise.
change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd said that once at my new agency out of habit, and they're like, "What? Tonight?"
So this is the weirdest thing. When I started dispatching where I am now, because I was, like, long story short, I was a security guard in Orange County before. So I learned the phonetic alphabet, the military version. And then I had to go to like the civilian version. And then did you have a hard time like going from like Atom to Alpha and all that stuff?
It was awful.
I sucked at it. It took me so long.
I
Adrian
literally-
used to write my evals. Sorry. Adrian used to write my evals all the time. Like, needs to learn the phonetic alphabet.
I would be driving around and be reading plates to myself and going, "What is a Zulu?" Like, it just it makes absolutely no sense.
Right? Unless you're in the military, you're just like, what is this?
Yeah. Now I hear the other, and that sounds foreign to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird how your mind can kind of erase that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The military to me just sounds like a foreign language now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I bet.
So why'd you choose the police work?
Grew up in a law enforcement family. My dad was a police captain in the South Bay City.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Was it the agency where you were a cadet?
no, it was a different agency, a little further south by the beach.
Did it have a beach in its name?
It did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had a north end and a south end. And so I kind of always grew up in that environment. And back then, when in the 80s and 90s, you could actually go to work.
You could
see your
actually be a
dad.
police officer.
You could be a police officer, and you could have your kids come into the station and wander around.
Heck
And
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I went on my first kind of ride along when I was probably 13 or 14.
That was like me. My dad was a Torrance lieutenant, and I started going to he was an EVOC. He was in charge of EVOC for the city. He used to bring me along to go pick up cones and learn how to drive when I was 14 years old. And that's how I was just like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, just that experience on the ride along. I rode with a canine handler, and I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. This is for me. And it was probably an hour or two that I rode.
Yeah.
And of course, we went to like what was that? A burger place on Artesia and Felton. Rods.
Not.
Oh, Rods?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
is that
was,
even still there? Do you know if that's still there?
It's still there.
It is?
It
Oh,
is?
yeah.
Oh, man.
That thing's a staple. I mean, that's
It's been there for like 50 years now.
I think that's a substation for that PD.
Man, I think we just set a record. This is the quickest we've gone to food.
Yeah. We always talk about food basically in every episode too. So
Oh, Rods
Yeah.
Rods was a staple.
have you found a new supplement staple in your new agency?
What's the go-to spots at your current agency?
It's got to be Baja Fish Tacos.
Really? There are a bunch of healthy people over there.
That's
No,
true.
These are probably the best Mexican food. It is.
Really?
It blows Chipotle out of the water. It's Cafe Rio way better than all those.
Really? I love Cafe Rio though. Cafe Rio's so good.
Cafe Rio's decent, but Baja Fish Tacos, they have them all over in Orange County.
Yeah.
They are the best food.
There's one at Fullerton, by kind of close to where I live, so I'm gonna have to go try one. I drive past it every time I go to the bank, so I was just like, I got to try this sometime.
We don't have one near us, do we?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
No, it's
There
mostly-
used to be one in Redondo, I think, off of Aviation.
Was
like back when I used to work for El Camino, so that was 15 years ago. I don't know if it's still there.
Tackling the big issues is what we do.
Yeah, you know. All right, so that's good. I know what I'm gonna do for dinner, so appreciate that.
You're gonna thank me.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that you were just at that. God, what steakhouse did you just go to in Vegas?
Oh, I was at the Golden Steer.
Golden Steer. That place is amazing.
It's a little overpriced, and we had to wait 2 hours to get in, so I went and got drunk at another place. But it was
Where's the Golden Steer?
it's just I think it's off Sahara, just northeast of the 15 freeway, so kind of on the north side of Caesars. Like right off the freeway overpass. But the place has been there for like 60 years. It's like one of those OG, like the gangsters used to go eat there, and
Gotcha.
Sinatra used to eat and drink there, and all those kind of places. That's like its thing. But god damn, it was a good steak.
And if you don't know about it, you would drive right by it. It's
Yeah.
a little strip mall. It almost looks like it could be a topless bar
Yep.
with the lights, and it's
Yep.
got no windows. And
Yep, it's old. It's OG.
It's old school.
It's like the San Franciscan.
Leather booths.
Yeah,
That type of thing.
They have all the photos of like the old mob people in
Yeah,
there
on
too
the
that
walls.
used to
Yeah.
come in. It's really cool.
it's legit. It's fucking
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you go there and you're gonna 2 people. You're spending with drinks at least $250. But it's Vegas. I mean, it's kind of what happens.
Yeah, that's kind of par for the course now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and the great thing is it's off strip, so it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm just at the age and I've been to Vegas enough to where I'm no longer like, oh, let's go to the strip.
Right.
Where now I'm like, hey, I hit my friends up and I'm like, hey, can we go somewhere that's not on the strip? And they're like, fuck yes, please, thank God.
Yeah.
So we do that, and then we went for drinks at Herbs and Rye, which is just on the other side of the freeway. So good, dude. It was so good. It's like a mixology mixed with flair kind of place, and I had the best Grey Goose gimlet I've probably ever had. It was literally like drinking lemonade. I was just like, oh.
I can't remember the last time I was in Vegas. I mean, it was probably a couple of years before COVID hit.
Yeah. Well, this was the first time I've been since COVID started.
Is it back to normal?
I didn't do anything on the strip, so I was all off strip, but everything off the strip was busy. We went to a couple local places after that, like a Tiki Room bar and something else, and they were packed. So it was.
I've been to
good.
Vegas once since COVID, and yeah, it was pretty much back to normal.
I just can't wait for it. Do you follow F1? So F1's having their first Grand Prix in Vegas next year.
Do you know how expensive that's going to be?
So my buddy who works and lives in Vegas he works for the Caesars Corporation. Their Caesars employee discount was still like $1,700 for like the cheapest room for that weekend.
Wow.
It's supposed to be like the most expensive weekend that Vegas has had in decades.
Is it going to go down the strip?
Yeah. So the backstretch is like a mile straight of just the strip going all the way down. And then it's going to, if I remember correctly, it goes down by New York, and then it turns east after New York, and then comes back down north of all the casinos on the back end, and then turns a few times and comes back all the way down the strip for like the last mile straight.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and supposedly they're building grandstands right in front of the Bellagio fountains. And in theory, from what I've heard from a couple of Vegas locals, is when it goes past the Bellagio fountains, they're trying to figure out how to time it so when it ends, the fountains fire.
So Officer Cameron, how are you enjoying your law enforcement podcast?
I'm loving it.
Hey, man, whatever. We got time.
It's like coffee. You
Yeah.
meet up for coffee, you don't talk about law enforcement
Yeah.
stuff.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
No, Vegas is great, though. I love Vegas.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Especially how cheap it is to fly there. You know,
It was, I mean, given my car gets 13 miles to the gallon, so it cost me almost $200 to drive there and back, but I should have flown.
Yeah,
So-
we're spoiled.
You didn't fly?
No, I drove. Yeah. I don't like flying, man. Do you not see how huge I am? I don't fit on airplanes.
I get that it's probably not comfortable for you, but
Yeah.
you could have saved $150 probably.
Well, yeah, I didn't think of that at first. So, and also, I mean, I stayed at the something Palace, the Palace Station, whatever. I forgot the name of it already. It's off the strip, and it was like $20 for the night. And so but it's awesome staying off strip and at the super cheap spots that are all local friendly. And
All right, as long as we're going to have this conversation, keep it going. What's the cheapest tables you could find?
I always go if I'm I didn't gamble this trip, but if I gamble, I go downtown to the El Cortez, and they usually have $2 craps tables.
What
And
about
they have
21?
it depends upon the time of day and how busy it is.
Right.
But if
Yeah, I
you're
know
going
that.
at nighttime when it's dead, so like 3 a.m,
Right.
it's $1 a table usually, and it goes up to like $5 to $6 during the day. They'll have higher end tables, but yeah, it's cheap as fuck. It's nice, but you can also stay at I'm going down the rabbit hole. The El Cortez is like one of those super OGs. Like you can stay in one of their original 33 rooms, but you have to sign a waiver because there's no elevator access. There's no handicap access. There's no anything. You have to walk up flights of stairs to get to it. Yeah, it's awesome. And you have to ask to stay in one of those rooms. It's fucking cool.
I think the first time I went to Vegas as an adult was for Baker to Vegas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you run?
I did.
Yeah. All right. We just had one of our dispatchers was there doing the emergency medical dispatching for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she loved it, but she's also a dispatch geek. So.
I think I ran it total of 10 times,
Really?
and I'll never run it again.
Why not?
It's something you do, and I did it when I was with my other agency that's smaller, and they needed people every year, and it was just the department I'm at now. It's so competitive. The guys
Oh, really?
and gals are just so fast. There's no way I could compete for a spot on the team.
So just for context, your old agency was about how many officers?
When I left, we were probably 65, 60, something like that.
Okay.
And budgeted for?
Boy, I think we were
back then.
back then.
Right.
It was probably 74.
Okay, so you're just about 10 shy.
Yeah, that sounds about
and,
right.
and your new agency is?
Our new agencies, when I joined, was 225. We're now authorized a little over 250.
Yeah. So much bigger.
I know you told me off mic, but what number are you currently at for your agency?
I think we're hovering right around 230-ish.
So just 20. That's not bad. 20 shy.
No, that's awesome.
And we have 12 in the academy. We're swearing in. We just sworn 6 this month. We're swearing in, I think, 11 laterals next month.
Yeah.
Sounds like a place a lot of people want to work.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The grass is definitely greener.
Under the orange curtain.
It's a different animal down there.
It is. It is. So, I got to ask though, why did you end up going to Orange County?
So at the agency I was at, it's a smaller South Bay agency, and I was on our board association, which is the most thankless, miserable job you could volunteer for.
Yes, it is. I'm one of our union reps.
It's a necessary job, but I think the city I was at, we went through furloughs, give backs, and then finally a contract. We were hoping for just restore everything without any perks.
Yeah, no concessions, no nothing. Just give us back what we had.
And I think the city's first offer to us was something like a 12% pay and benefit cut.
Yeah, we just went through a small benefit cut, but luckily for our agency, they converted it over from a benefit to cash, so we get the same amount of money every year, but it's just in a different form. But it didn't go over well, and I can only imagine what a 12% cut would feel like.
Yeah,
Right.
And so we were negotiating for, probably 10 months, and it wasn't getting better. You know, the city would, just 8% cut. And, you know, I kind of saw the writing on the wall being a smaller agency, limited opportunity.
Yeah.
Did you feel that your administration looked at you different when you joined the board?
I don't think so. I mean, I had one run-in with one of the captains, and I think he was upset with how I handled something, but at the same time respected that I was standing up for our people.
Okay.
And he was a former union guy, so I think he wished I had handled it differently, and in hindsight, I probably would have. But being new on the board, I didn't know. I thought that's what the Chiefs breakfast was for.
How many members was the board of the agency you were at?
I want to say somewhere around 55, 58, maybe.
And how many reps did you guys have?
I think we had 3 board members, a vice president, a president, and a treasurer.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right for most of the agencies there. The bigger agencies have more, but
yeah. And so I saw how that was going with the city. I didn't think moving forward there'd be much opportunity.
Yeah.
And I saw the city the police department starting to eliminate a lot of the off-site assignments because of staffing.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, I'm 14 years in as an officer.
Yeah, you got time. Most agencies will take you at that point too, because you got the experience, and it's not just that new experience. You got You really know what's going on.
Yeah, and you've gone past that 5-year arrogant phase that a lot of people hit.
So it was in that. Do I just stay here and write it out? Because
you're halfway in and you got the sweet shifts now. And
do I really want to start over? And I reached out to a friend of mine I was a handler with, and he worked for an Orange County agency, and I, hey, let me come on a ride along, just check it out. And probably within about 5 minutes, I was in love.
Yeah.
I said, man, I've got to do this. The opportunities here are incredible.
Was there any one specific thing that stood out that was just the icing on the cake?
This sounds kind of funny, but he took me into where our vehicle keys are. So our city, our police department, we have about 60 patrol cars.
Okay. Your new one.
My new city, yes. We have about 60 patrol cars. And they have
which, for anybody who doesn't know, is a fuck ton.
Yeah, that's a fleet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And actually, when I started, we only had 40. So we've added 20 since I've been there because we're just growing. But my friend took me in, kind of walking around the station, introducing me to people. Everybody was just so welcoming. This seems weird. This isn't
right. Yeah.
And
people are smiling inside here.
So we have our keyboard room where every single vehicle we have a set of keys for. So it's got ignition key, a Knox box key, keys to all the fire access things on a little like Cubiton. So it's well organized.
Yeah.
Where I came from, we were just,
he's like lost. He's like, what the hell?
Yeah. Where I came from.
We're going to have to explain what this is to everybody.
Well, it's done so right. You can already tell.
And so my friend explained to me, we get a little key fob. You put the key fob in, you pick whichever car you want, and you have
whichever car you want.
And, hey, here's all the cars. And, we had the low jack
this
cars.
This is mind blowing.
We had the tall man cars. We had our traffic cars, and you just put your fob in, you take a set of keys, and the keys had everything. So where I came from, it was, hey, can I get a sergeant with keys to this? Or here they actually trusted you with the keys. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But just the whole organization of that, and I'm OCD, I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
It's amazing how little things like that make a difference, right? Where you just notice the smallest detail. You're like, fuck, that's awesome. I
Tell
like
me,
that.
tell me you don't want to go on a ride along right now.
Oh, I do. I do.
Yeah, so do I.
I do.
And then you go out to our fleet, and our cars are well taken care of. Even the high mileage cars at 80,000 miles,
Yeah. The brakes don't catch fire.
they run incredible. Everything, all of our cars have the same gear. Every car has a pick, every car has a RAM, every car has an AED, every car has a med bag. And I saw that on my ride along, and I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Damn.
Spike
That's
strips in every
insane.
car. Yeah.
Just wait. Do you guys have? I'm going to go down the rabbit hole here. Do you guys have drones yet
Oh, yeah. We've had drones for a while.
in every car?
No. So we have a drone team, though.
Okay.
And I think
You really wouldn't need a drone in every car.
I'm telling you, that's going to be the future because they're going to get so small and so cheap.
Get there, but in the current culture,
Yeah, right now, no.
Right.
Right now, no. But
we fly drones probably daily
yeah.
on calls. We have, I'm guessing probably 15 drone operators, and most of them work patrol, so they have the drones that they'll carry with them, and they can launch within a couple minutes.
Yeah. Telling me, where he doesn't like the conversation with drones because he's not in on it, but I could go down the rabbit hole and just do hours of just drone talk. I love it.
Our drone guys, watching them fly indoors with canines, with SWAT.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Absolutely amazing.
It's like I try to explain to people.
We just saw it yesterday.
Yeah. So one of our agencies, who's like I guess I'd call it our most advanced drone agency now. They I don't know what the actual terminology is, but they basically push the drone feed out to anybody who has access to the city security cams or the CCTVs. So like we were up in dispatch and the supervisor has access to the city cameras now. And so they popped the drone footage on of them responding to a call for service when we were watching it in dispatch.
We have that same ability. They have they can downlink it, and it's a website.
Yeah.
So I could log in from home, I believe,
Yeah.
as long as I have the password and website and watch it in live time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it was yesterday was the first time that we got to see it at work, and we can tell what the call was. Someone said that they thought they saw a female in a dumpster. So
DOA, but
right,
ended up being a transient sleeping.
bogus call. But it was neat the way that thing just hovered right over, got above the dumpster, looked around,
Yeah. Okay.
cleared the call. Nope.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think within the next couple of years, you'll see a lot of departments having full-time drone teams.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Especially agencies that couldn't afford an airship because they're going to get, I won't go too far down the rabbit hole,
no,
but they're
it's
going to
fine.
get to a point where they're going to replace, probably in like 20 or 30 years, they'll replace airships permanently. Because by that time, they'll have the battery and the speed capabilities.
My only thing is
To where-
pursuits.
They'll have the ability to do that. They already can fly 15, 20 miles. And then all you'd have to do is you would just have to link up with another agency and say, hey, fly over this.
Okay, so it'd be a relay format,
Yeah.
basically.
And
Okay,
in
that
15 or
makes
20
sense.
years, you'll have drones that are flying almost indefinitely with solar technology, and like they'll just be up and they'll never have to land except for maintenance. And it costs $20 an hour to fly them instead of $550.
Right, burning fuel and doing all that other
Maintenance is the big one. So
And it seems it's harder for us to get an airship in Orange County,
oh yeah,
especially being so close to an airport down there.
yeah.
So time permitting, the drones are just phenomenal. And the guys that fly them, just amazing.
And they can go to places that airships can't go to.
And the FLIR capabilities on them is probably better.
Isn't it creepy?
Yeah.
Like
It's
so
better than what
good.
you see on an airship,
Yeah.
it seems.
Yeah. I still remember watching on the news the first time I saw a drone launched by LAOSCB. It was a termination of pursuit. A guy was just barricaded in his car. They pulled a Bearcat.
Oh, is that where it sat on the hood?
Yep.
Yeah.
They pulled a Bearcat up behind the car so it couldn't move. The car was disabled, but they pulled a Bearcat out right behind it. They didn't want to put anybody in front because they thought it was armed, so they just landed a drone on his hood of his car and just looked at him the whole time until he decided to get out. I was just like, this is so, and this was like 6-7 years ago.
Your current agency, if you have a request for an airship, where does it come from?
We contract with 2 cities with air support.
Okay.
And then if they're unavailable, the sheriffs will come in.
Okay.
Just it's the way most places do it.
So it's a little different in Orange County. It seemed like LA County, you could get an airship pretty easily.
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as the big agencies aren't, tied up. But you also have to remember, though, like, I mean, trying to explain this to people that don't understand, like, Orange County is still a very, very populous agency, or populous county, I'll say. But LA County is so, like, they're big law enforcement agencies. I mean, they're the biggest. They have the biggest sheriff's department in the world.
Yeah.
It's like close to, I want to say like 12 or 13,000 deputies. Then they have
And then the
LAPD.
city one's what, 9, 10
Yeah, 9 or 10,000 deputies. So
officers.
So you just got to think like between those two agencies, there's 35,000 police officers within 4,000 square miles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, compared to any other county in the world, that's why I
Right.
think a lot of the resources are so available because the sheriffs have over $1 billion budget every year and they can afford to do whatever they want. So,
One of my friends flies for a big LA agency,
oh yeah.
and they'll have 3 airships up at a time.
Yeah. Isn't that
Weekends,
crazy?
And it's crazy.
So, and they have the giant airport they got to get rid of or not go around and all that stuff. So that's one of the things that the drones is going to be really cool at too, is because
Yeah.
they can just fly under the flight path of a lot of
The police helicopters can. I've done it with them, and that's pretty incredible because you're 100 feet off the beach.
yeah, that's crazy. So did you, were you working when the police helicopter went down last year?
No, I was off, but I had flown with that crew.
Yeah.
When our city signed a contract for 2 agencies, airships, I was voluntold to fly with the flight crews.
What a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
You know,
what a bummer.
Yeah. So terrible.
Yeah.
I get to go fly around with it. Yeah. Just for you, sir.
Yeah.
Lieutenant called me up and he goes, "Hey, do you like small confined spaces that are high up?" And I'm like, "Are we talking helicopter?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "I love helicopters."
There you go.
He goes, "Okay, this is your task. This is what you need to do." And fly with all 3 flight crews from each agency because there are 2 agencies.
All right, but only for you, Lieutenant.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I'll make this sacrifice for you."
Yeah. Do I get hazard pay too?
Right.
So
This is all overtime, right? Yep. Oh, sacrifices I make.
I know. So terrible. So terrible.
and the best part about it is for those that don't know, Anaheim has Disneyland, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's restricted airspace over Disneyland unless you're law enforcement.
Oh, so you guys get to fly over it?
So each flight crew is like, "Hey, anything you want to see?" And I'd be like, "Yeah,
Disneyland,
I've
hell
always,
yeah.
Of
I've always
course.
wanted to fly over Disneyland. Can we make that happen?" So each flight crew thought I was the first time going over. They didn't know that I'd done it each time with the flight crews.
He's like, so I've been over Disneyland 6 times.
Yeah,
now.
you know.
It was pretty neat.
That's awesome. Because you're also, I know you're a Disney, you're kind of a Disney fan, aren't you?
I am until recently though with the prices,
COVID stuff.
Oh my
Oh my
God,
God.
the prices.
the prices.
What's
and now,
it, $240 a ticket now or something like that?
even the annual pass.
park offers.
This is the first year my wife and I didn't renew our passes
Really?
in 15 years because the passes are ridiculously expensive. There's no guarantee that you
Yeah,
can
you have
get
to make
a reservation,
reservations and stuff. It's
and they
stupid.
don't include parking anymore. There's no fast passes anymore.
Yeah, you have to pay extra for all that.
I'd rather just go once a year to Disney World and have
Yeah.
4 or 5 days
Yeah.
than an annual pass.
Or what's the other Disney style vacation you guys usually do?
The Disney cruise.
Yeah.
I think we've done 8.
Is it worth it? I mean, obviously, I'm asking the wrong guy because you've done 8 of them, but
Right.
have you done other cruises as well?
We did our first non-Disney cruise this year.
How terrible was it comparatively?
It was great. It was a different vibe.
Where'd you go?
Yeah.
We went to Alaska.
Oh yeah, that'd be way
Beautiful.
different
Yeah.
than.
And it was funny because the very first port we pulled into, I think it was Juneau.
Oh,
The Disney Wonder is directly
get away.
directly across from us. It was almost like we got caught with another cruise line.
this is the. I've always heard. I've never been on a
Pull
Disney
your head
cruise.
down.
I've never been on a Disney cruise, but I've always heard it's really good at making an adult when there's kids around. Like because they take the kids basically and make the kids experience for them, and then try to
Sure.
make the adult experience for the adults. Did you ever have any bad experiences on a Disney cruise when it came to any run-ins with kids or anything like that?
Now you almost forget
Yeah.
that you're on a cruise with a lot of kids because there's so many kid areas, there's so many adult only areas.
Yeah,
And we kind of stumbled on it when my sister was planning my wife and I, we were engaged, figuring out like, how do we want to do our wedding?
Yeah.
And my sister, who's booking a Disney cruise, said, "Hey, you can get married on Disney's private island." And I'm like, yeah. Right. That's going to be
Yeah.
$80,000,
$90,000 and
So we looked into it and we said, that's perfect for us because we're not the big fanfare. We didn't want to have a big party. And so we did the week-long Disney cruise. We got married on their private island with all of our family there. So everybody got a week vacation out of it. We went to Disney World for a honeymoon and then came back, and a week later threw a big party at the Cheesecake Factory in Redondo for all of our friends.
There you go.
And I think for all 3 of those things, including the trip, everything, we were less than $20,000.
what?
It was unbelievable.
Holy
And we did,
shit.
We
Did you
did
get married in the 30s?
What's that?
Did you get married in 1930 or something?
I
How'd
know
you
for
do
that cheap.
I mean, the Disney cruise and the stay at Disney World and our party. And it was funny because when we were meeting at the Cheesecake Factory, the lady's like, "Oh, is this for a wedding or is this a party?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a party." "Oh, okay, well, that's this price."
Oh,
You start saying wedding, it's double or triple
Yeah.
the price. And we had a great time. All of our friends were there. We had an open bar, and we just
Wow.
had a blast.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have
I
a,
want to do something like that for my retirement party.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have one friend that got married at Disneyland at their Rose Garden outside the hotel. And it was awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know how much it cost, but it must have been outrageously expensive.
I want to say for the wedding on the island, they only allow one per cruise on the island.
Okay.
I want to say it was about $1,800 or $1,900,
God, that's nothing.
and it was
That's nothing.
and it included
That's less than most venues.
Yeah.
And we were on the beach. The odd thing is you'd have people walking by in bikinis and bathing suits.
Yeah.
But it was about a 15-minute thing right on the sand with the ship as the background. Once we got married, we went on board the ship, did a cake cutting thing,
Uh-huh.
and then we were back on the beach. And 30 minutes later, and we could have full access of the ship for photos.
Really?
So all of our photos, there's nobody around. My only regrets, I should have asked to go on the bridge
Yeah.
and do a photo up there. I wasn't thinking about it.
That's what I'd be my first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had to do it over again, I would have definitely said, "Hey, I
Right.
want to go
Yeah.
on the bridge." I
Yeah,
think
that's
that'd be
Photoshop
such a-
They
number
could
one.
probably,
in the captain's chair.
I bet on the next one you book, if you said, "Hey, we got married on a Disney cruise X amount of years ago. We were just wondering, is there any way we could do a photo on the bridge?" They'd probably hook that up.
I should have done it because last year was it last year? I'm going to get in trouble. She listens to this. We did our 10-year
I can edit out
anniversary.
anything you need to edit out here.
So we did our 10-year anniversary. We went back on the Fantasy. That's the ship we got
Okay.
married on. And we did a 10-year anniversary cruise on it. I should have
Oh,
done it then,
that's
'cause that would
awesome.
have been perfect opportunity. And we were the very first paying customers on the Fantasy, which was kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But
That's
it's so
awesome.
worth it, though. Like, I just, there's something about the Disney magic. The service you get on a Disney cruise is
Next to none.
top notch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it in Alaska because they price gouge,
Yeah.
it seems. But for the Caribbean, where we've done a lot of our cruises, it's pretty comparable to most other cruise lines.
I gotta admit, like, I love Disney too. I hate how much expensive it is and the politics that have gotten into it, but there is something about having it be called the happiest place on earth at Disneyland, because it really is.
Yes.
It's the place where I'll go there no matter what's going on, and I'm fucking smiling by the end of the day.
And
I don't even care if I have to wait in a 2-hour line. I'm just
Agreed.
happy.
Agreed.
And it's nice too with downtown Disney, where you can go have dinner, a couple of cocktails,
Yes.
walk
Yeah.
around the park, and just people. Like my wife,
Well,
and I
you
love
used to be able to
people
walk
watching.
around the park.
Yeah, now you're just bumping into everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
we-
you have to make a reservation to walk around the park.
We did that for Justin's like 11th or 12th birthday. We did 2 nights at the Disneyland Hotel
Yeah,
and did the
yeah,
park for the
yeah.
day. Perfect.
Yeah.
It was just
It's awesome.
well worth it.
Yeah. And I think what it is I think all of us probably have memories of our childhood as being partly spent at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And you remember that when you're there as an adult, you're like, okay, this is why it's so great. Like the smell of Pirates of the Caribbean, the water. Oh God, I love it. I was talking about this at work.
See-
This says we are so off
We are so
tangent right
far
now.
off course.
I was talking to this with Bootsy at work about the smell of Pirates of the Caribbean, because it has a specific smell and nothing else smells like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I remember going there when I was like 12 years old with my dad, and the main reason I remembered is because we walked up to the main gate, and he was like, "Oh crap, I have my gun on me." This is back when they had fanny packs, like the guns in the fanny packs and stuff. And so security was like, "Do you want to bring leave in security?" He's like, "No, that's okay." So we walked all the way back to the car, and then I was, I'm a kid, so I'm like, "God damn it, no! I want to go inside." Yeah, it was like one of my first memories of Disneyland.
And then see for me now, because I'm a Star Wars geek.
Yeah.
And then when they had the Millennium Falcon there and saw that
Star
for the
Wars
first
Land?
time, I was like,
Yeah, one of
it's
my
real.
one of my last like happiest experiences at Disneyland. It was the first time I went to the Star Wars Land,
Star Wars,
whatever
yeah.
it's called. What is it called? Galaxy's Edge or Galaxy Quest or
Whatever
something like
it
that.
is.
No, Galaxy Quest is a movie. Galaxy's Edge, and I remember walking in there and staring at the Millennium Falcon. It was
It's
nighttime,
exactly what I did.
and I literally like almost started tearing up. I was like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever
Yeah,
seen."
that's exactly what I did.
And then it just so happened, as soon as we walked out of the Millennium Falcon, the fireworks started going off. So we had like a great view of the fireworks coming out of Galaxy, and I was just like, "This is so cool." Yeah, I fucking love Disneyland.
Yeah,
Stop
so
paying
stay-
so much, people.
So staying on topic, what's been your favorite assignment as a law enforcement officer since you've had your career?
That was a shitty segue.
Yeah, I know, but we got to get back on track.
Definitely being a canine handler.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my whole goal of becoming a police officer, was to be a canine handler.
Have you done that at both agencies?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Yet being the key word.
My hope is that in 2023 we'll be adding a 4th dog, and
Okay.
that would be my wish and desire to do that right into retirement. Would be. I was 9 years of pure bliss in my old agency being a handler.
How many at your current agency? How many years is the assignment?
Life of the dog.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Damn. That's pretty nice.
There's some agencies, regardless of the life of the dog, I think it's like a 4 or 5 year assignment, and they rotate you out.
Yeah, I was in a unique position because I was the first to get a hand-me-down dog when I got it at my old previous agency.
Really?
Because the handler tested for a special assignment, and the dog had about a year of working time left.
Yeah.
They should have just retired it and said they gave it to me. And then
for a year.
And then he passed away. And so then I went and got to pick out my dog, which is probably the most exciting experience of my life. And worked that dog. So he was 15 months when I got him.
Okay.
Wow.
And really young. And so we were, probably
Malinois?
a mallard, half male, half shepherd.
Okay.
So he was titled as a Malinois, probably so they could get more money out of him.
Yeah.
But he looked, kind of depending on the dog, he looked more shepherd.
Do you go to that place everybody goes to in Oxnard or wherever?
Adlerhurst and Riverside. Yeah. And
they're pretty well known down here in Southern California. Or I don't know, probably around the world, but I know that all the Southern California agencies use them.
All the Orange County agencies do too.
Yeah.
And we went out, and for those that don't know, when you go select a dog, you tell the vendor, hey, we're going to be buying a dog from you. They kind of know what kind of dog your agency's like.
Yeah.
And so when you go out to test dogs, they'll have 2 or 3 that would be a good fit for your department. So we tested those 2 or 3. And we're like, maybe 1. So what people did back then, this was back in 2007, they would take all their canine cars out there, but with no dogs, so they could hide dogs in cars because they didn't want somebody else to test the dog, because it's basically a first come, first serve. So you'd find a dog, and we did it with 1, like, hey, this might work, So we threw him in one of the cars, and back then we were allowed to actually walk the kennels.
Really?
And so the lieutenant in charge of the unit was wandering the kennels. He was a former handler as well. Mm-hmm. And he saw Arthur sitting in the kennel and was just the most gorgeous dog. And he's like, we got to test that dog. So we grabbed it, and he tested really well. And for those that have been handlers, there's something about leashing up a dog, and it heels next to you, and you just know, like, this is the dog.
Quickly take us through the testing process. What exactly does that entail?
We're looking for obedience. We're looking for their play drive. Mm-hmm. The play drive is good for detection work. So if you're doing narcotics or bomb detection, you want a high play drive. We like to see how their obedience, if they heel, if they seem skittish around other dogs. And then we do some bite work with them. It's hard to tell sometimes because the dogs have just flown in from Europe, usually a day or 2 before, so they're a little jet lagged.
Yeah.
But we'll take them out.
Plus, they're really young, so they really know, like, how far along training-wise are they the time you're out there testing?
They're pretty far along. They're titled, so they're either Schitzen or KNPV. And I think Schitzen has changed since. So they're titled in Europe.
You're going to have to plain English for a lot of these.
Well, I wish I could, but
those are basically like certifications, I guess, is a way to put it, given to the dog when they make a certain number of.
Yeah, so how it works is our vendor goes over to Europe. He has contacts, and over in Europe, people raise sport dogs. Yeah. And so there's either the Schitzen for certification or the KNPV. They're very similar. It includes like healing, being able to guard and bark. Forget some of the other things. So they train these dogs from the time they're puppy. They breed them for this purpose. Yeah. They can trace the lineage of these dogs back 3, 4, 5, 6 generations of dogs. Mm-hmm. They'll test them. They will get them certified. Mm-hmm. And then our vendor will go over and buy a certified dog. So they already know the basic healing. They know obedience. They know the downs. They know searching for people. They know the guard and bark. They're trained on how to bite the sleeve.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, so they're pretty well trained.
Huh.
And, I mean,
what languages are your commands in?
Mine were in Dutch. No, I'm sorry. I had 2 dogs. One was Dutch. One was Czech. I get them mixed up now.
Yeah. Which was better? Or did it care?
It didn't care.
Yeah.
The dog knew when you were mad because it was usually a French.
Yeah, I like that. So when you got told you were going to be a canine, did you have to go through any special training, or was it all after the fact, after you got your dog, or was it anything before?
So the time I was a cadet, from the time I was 18, I would come out and agitate. So every Wednesday on our training days, I'd go out and agitate. And
meaning for people that don't know that, he's the one that volunteers to run down the field and get bitten by the dog wearing a bite suit.
Either that or, we think somebody could fit in here. Let's stuff you in there.
Right. It's a good thing I never was that small.
Yeah, and then
Well, I did it for my
Yeah.
agency too. It's fun.
it's
I
actually a
bet.
lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually learn more. For those that want to be canine handlers, you learn a whole lot more watching a dog work as a decoy, or
Really?
than you'll ever learn as a handler.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the dog's out of your sight.
Uh-huh.
It might go into a room, and you as a handler can see what the dog's doing and see how are they going deep enough into a room? Are they looking? Or is their nose on the ground?
Yeah.
And so you actually learn a lot about dogs just by taking the bites. So I did that for, probably since the time I was 18 to I got selected as a dog. So probably 8 or 9 years
Wow.
of taking bites and going out there. And then once a dog is selected, you go through a basic, which is 6 weeks
With the dog.
with the dog.
Okay.
And it's kind of taking what the dog knows how to do, the searching, and applying that to law enforcement.
Okay.
So a dog, if I give him a search command to search a building, that's foreign to him. He's used to searching on a field. So we'd have to start him off where they could see the person run into the building. And then the dog knows, oh, he's in there. Let me go find him. And then it becomes, okay, the dog knows it came now. Let's just have the decoy or the bad guy yell, but not be seen.
Oh, okay.
Then the dog goes in and finds him. And then eventually get to the point where I come up, I can give my search announcement. Dog knows exactly what his job is
Uh-huh.
and does it.
Wow.
And so basic is probably the first 2 or 3 weeks is getting comfortable with leash control,
Okay.
handling the leash. That's where most people screw up at first because it's very awkward and it's like an art to be a good handler and
Yeah.
leash. And
Because I would assume whenever you need the leash, or whenever you need to be on top of your leash handling skills, is probably when the dog's pretty happy and ready to roll and wants to go bite somebody.
yeah,
So it's not like he's just sitting there calm, waiting to be petted. He's barking and ready to run, and
yeah.
or you're pulling him off somebody or something like that.
And it's funny that the dogs know. As soon as you leash them up out of the car and come on, buddy, let's go. And they're walking up to the door, they're getting their game time.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate because my dog he could go from a hunting fool to you can pet me, just don't touch
Really?
my ears. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
That was when I was at my old agency in a reserve. We had searches, and if the search came up negative, the handler would take me, put the sleeve on, and let him get a bite. And we would go somewhere, hide, let him get a bite, just so he ended at a bite after every search.
Huh. Did you guys do anything like that? Or did you just treat him well after, like McDonald's?
No, I mean, there's pros and cons to that, especially as an early on dog. You might want to reward him sometimes, but you don't want him to get the mindset like, oh, every time I search, I'm going to get a bite. Mm-hmm. So they have to be satisfied knowing, hey, I did what I was supposed to. I didn't find somebody.
Yeah.
And most of these dogs, you just praise them and pet them up and you know, use a high pitched voice with them. They're ecstatic.
Yeah. How long did it take you until you realized until it clicked with your dog where you knew it was going to be or not when you knew, but like when the dog knew that you were the alpha and that you two were a team? How long did that take?
It was probably about a week or so. Because
you're with him 24/7 basically.
Yeah, you take the police car home. The dog lives at home with you. Most handlers pick out their dog a week or two before basic starts.
Yeah.
To allow them to kind of get acclimated to where their new living environment, and allows you to kind of get used to them.
Yeah.
And these dogs, they know, they see that food bowl come out like, oh, this is my
master. Yeah.
And so we bonded pretty quick, and then I think kind of towards the end of basic, we were pretty well. I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable with this dog. This is a good dog.
So when you had your first dog that you only had for a year, did you go through basic with that dog as well as with your second dog?
Correct. Yeah. So the basic certifies you as a dog team. So even if you've been a handler before, you still have to go through a basic.
So if you get it again next year, you have to go through it again.
I'd go through it again. And then if we did detection, I'd have to go through detection.
Yeah. How difficult was it for the dog, the very first dog you had, to acclimate to a new master?
It wasn't that long. It's probably very similar to my second dog.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I ran into the handler that had him first, probably about 6 or 7 months after taking him. And the dog ran right by him.
Really?
Paid no interest in him whatsoever. And it was literally 30 seconds of going to the bathroom on a bush. Then he realized who he was, and he made a beeline for him.
Oh,
and
really?
was jumping up and like trying to lick him. And
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's amazing to see that.
That's pretty cool. So, what specialties have your dogs done What special training and special detection types have your dogs been?
So mine was cross-trained for narcotics detection, and then also cross-trained for SWAT. So we went to SKIDS school together, which is SWAT and canines interacting during deployment. So it's kind of taking the SWAT deploys and searches differently than handlers generally do.
Yeah.
They're a lot more slow and methodical because it's because of the nature of what they're doing. So it kind of allows the SWAT operators to see the capabilities of a dog, how we deploy the dog, but it also allows us to adapt how we deploy a dog for SWAT operations. So an example of this in like a normal building search, I would be at the front with my dog and sending him in. On a SWAT deployment, usually I might be third or fourth in the stack of SWAT operators. So I have to rely on whoever's the point to kind of tell me what my dog's doing. A little different. But we did a lot of narcotics. That was probably our bread and butter for the better part of our career. We teamed up with a lot of federal and state agencies. Yeah. And we got to do a lot of fun narcotics interaction.
I bet. What was the biggest bust you had? Narcotics-wise?
Narcotics-wise, 35 kilos of cocaine.
Damn. That's a lot of cocaine. That's close to 70 pounds, right?
Yeah, 2.2 pounds per kilo. Then that was a fun one because that was obviously a cartel case, and I came in. Yeah. It was a search at the house after a search warrant had been issued, and so this case, I was on call for over 100 hours for this case.
Holy shit!
The trial was about ready to start, and these guys finally fired their defense team and hired a new defense team, so it started all over again. By the time I went to testify, I was on the stand for maybe 10 minutes.
How many years later from the actual arrest?
It was probably 2 or 3 years later.
Gotta love how the judicial system works.
Hey, where did your dog alert? Here. He alerted here. What did he find? 2 kilos. Where else did he alert? Here. What did he find? 3 kilos.
Pretty simple. Cut and paste.
I was actually more excited because my dog found it was probably about a half gram of meth on the same search. Really? And it was the personal stash of meth, but it was up in like a little in the garage, up in a little cutout in the drywall. Huh. I was more excited about that than the kilos because if my dog walked those kilos, that'd be embarrassing.
Yeah. So when you're doing like a search for narcotics, I'm assuming, because I don't know, the dog already knows what to search for, or is it like you have to tell it like a specific narcotic to search for?
No, so they're trained on the odors. Back when I was a handler, we were doing marijuana still, so it'd be marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine, and heroin.
Okay.
So they know you give them a different search command.
Oh, and they'll search for a different type.
And they're searching now. They're not searching for person or evidence. They're looking for narcotics. So anywhere narcotics have recently been that would allow that transfer of odor is what they're looking for.
Okay. Huh. It's a whole. I don't really know much about canines. It's a whole new world. So it's pretty crazy when you think about the capabilities that these dogs have.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird way to think, but if you've ever seen like a dry ice setup where the dry ice is kind of streaming down.
Yeah, like the steam coming off of it.
Yeah, so that's how the odor works on narcotics. And so wherever that narcotics is, it's putting off odor and it's kind of falling.
Okay.
And you'll see as soon as the dog hits the odor, he's changing behavior.
Really?
And so he'll go back and forth till he finds the source of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch.
Yeah.
Canine training on Wednesday nights was a blast.
Yeah. There's a video of one of our agency's guys who his dog is a little wiry, crazy dog, and it literally jumped. I don't know if you see this video. Jumped from the floor into an attic in one bound and found a guy up in an attic. I was just like, holy crap. I don't even know how that's possible.
There was just an agency.
Was that the handcuff guy that got away from a South Bay agency?
It might have been. I didn't, it might have been. So.
There was just a traffic stop or barricade or something on TV where, did you see the dog go through the car window?
Yeah, that wasn't too long. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. The dog launches right through the window. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. But it has to be difficult for you because as a handler, at least, because the dog is just a tool to keep the officer safe. And, unfortunately, when it has to be done, the dog goes where the people can't. Is there any like specific incidences where you were like, oh my God, I can't let my dog go do this?
No, I mean, that's the whole purpose of the dog. I'd rather my dog lose his life and deploy him and take the rounds or get stabbed than one of my partners.
Yeah.
So there was never a time. I mean, we had some pretty hairy deployments, and I knew that, hey, this could be it.
Yeah.
But that's what we trained for.
Yeah.
You know, and that wouldn't be easy. I mean, when I had to put him down, I was a wreck.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But you know, it's kind of what you sign up for, and you know that, hey, this dog's a tool.
Yeah.
And you'd always kind of have to brief the team, like, hey guys, if they shoot at my dog, it's not us.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a tool, and it's a piece of property at the end of the day, as sad as that is, because we do have a very special bond. I'm with that dog 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And it's hard knowing that, okay, this might be that deployment.
Yeah. Now I know that I've met a couple canine handlers that treat their dogs differently at home than others. Are you one of the people that they stay in the house, they stay with the family, or do you kennel them the whole time?
So for the first, probably 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, I had Arthur. He was out in his kennel.
Yeah.
And I created
by his choice or by yours?
By my choice.
Yeah.
I created the department policy about kenneling your police dog. So they had to be in the kennel. And so he was in there till I figured, like, okay, he's a smart street dog now.
Yeah.
He knows what's up. So then I started letting him sleep inside the house.
Okay. In a kennel?
No, he had a spot under my office where I kept all my gear.
Okay.
And he was allowed to sleep in there, and he'd just curl up under the desk and sleep. And he felt safe there because he could see my gun belt.
Okay. So he knew.
He knew if I started showering, like, okay, cool, Dad can't leave without me.
Yeah. Huh. It's very crazy. Psychology is really what it is between the dog and the handler. So it just makes it really interesting. Were you working the theater shooting?
I was.
As a canine?
I was one of the first people on scene.
Yeah. So when you were, I'm assuming you and your partner were clearing some of the theaters out.
No.
Let me rephrase. What was your job with your dog during the canine or during the theater shooting?
The dog never came out of the car.
Really?
Yeah. I was probably one of the first people on scene. I put out the 999 on our neighboring agency's channel, which kind of got the cavalry rolling. And we didn't know where in the theater they were shot, other than when the shots fired went out, just the initial broadcast was something like, hey, shots fired at the theaters.
Yeah.
Which we'd had a couple shootings there before, so it was kind of like, oh, shit.
It wasn't the greatest movie theater at the time.
No, and usually the shootings happen there. It was, you know, gang on gang in a parking garage, or I think one guy capped a round into the ceiling, and those kinds of things. And then the next transmission was, I've been shot, my partner's been shot, suspect's down, and he's with 3 other people. Stand by for description. And he put out
literally the thing that nobody ever wants to hear in their life.
But it's kind of weird because you hear, oh, I've been shot, my partner's been shot, and he is so calm on the radio.
Yeah.
It in his ability to give a description of the 3 that were with this guy, it was like he was looking at a picture of him.
Wow.
Number 1 is going to be this. Number 2 is this. Number 3 is this. This is what they're wearing. And it was so good that later we were able to find him in the theater as we were clearing him. But to get there and to see your partner shot is
horrifying.
There's nothing you can do to prepare yourself for it, you know, because it's just not what we're supposed to see.
Yeah.
You know, you see a person who's been shot or injured in a car accident. There's a separation because I don't know him.
Yeah.
And I have a job to do. And it was very challenging to see that. And I mean, you're walking into the scene where it still smells like a gun range. You can still smell the gunpowder in the room.
Wow.
We don't know who the shooter is, other than he ended up going outside, and from the angle I came in, I couldn't see him. I could just see a guy down who happened to be an innocent bystander. They got shot in the leg. And then saw my partners, both of them were shot. And you could see as soon as they saw us, it was immediate release, like, okay, cool, help's here.
Yeah.
So we were very fortunate that night because the 2 medic crews that showed up were our SWAT medics.
They were part of the fire department.
They were part of the fire department.
Yeah. So they're paramedics that are on the SWAT team.
So for those that don't know, generally fire will stage at something like this until it's safe. They came right in.
Wow.
They literally pulled up. We escorted them out. And then now we had a pretty significant crime scene in the lobby of a theater on, I think it was a Friday or Saturday night.
And there would just been a big movie that released too, if I remember correctly.
And so there was, I think 12 of 14 or 14 out of the 16 that were full of patrons.
Yeah, the theaters. Yeah.
So it just became a massive mutual aid. I think within 10 or 15 minutes, we had 150 cops.
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, we had an FTO that was working that kind of took charge of the CP, and we all just kind of found a role that we needed to fulfill. And I mean, the dog wasn't not that.
Yeah.
So
when you're doing a search on something like that, why wasn't the dog utilized, or why wouldn't the dog be utilized?
Because we knew we had the main shooter in custody. The three we were looking for, not custody, he was killed. But the three we were looking for were associates of this guy.
Okay.
And so it's more wanting to find him as a witness than as a suspect.
Okay.
And when you're, if we had all the theaters clear and they ran into an empty theater, it'd be a potentially different story.
Yeah.
But, each theater was full of patrons that many of them had no idea what was going on until they came out to use a restroom or something like that.
Because the movies were still playing.
Movies were still playing.
Wow.
So it
probably didn't even hear anything.
Probably not.
They thought it was a movie.
Yeah, next door.
Yeah. So it was a very it changed the agency I worked for tremendously.
Yeah.
For the better.
Oh yeah.
Because before then it was we do mutual aid a lot. Canines were the oddball, but we do mutual aid all the time.
Yeah.
But as far as sending patrol resources to another city, it was no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, it was pretty rare back then. So now it's
hey,
the next door neighbors need help. Cool, send them.
Yeah, because I was working that night.
Yeah, and I mean it was there was a lot of breakdowns in leadership.
Yeah,
and to the chief and command staff's credit, we did a critical incident debrief a couple weeks later, and it was literally like, hey, there's no rank in here. Get it off your chest.
That's what's needed.
Yeah,
it's amazing what you learn from those debriefs, like major incident debriefings. Like it's fun. It's weird because it changes the way agencies operate, right? So like, and no matter if it's like this is a big incident for your city, I mean, that kind of shooting anywhere is a big incident, but like that kind of incident's a big incident anywhere, but like that kind of incident in LAPD's jurisdiction is not going to be handled the same way, I don't think, in like a small agency. But like, it's crazy how when you see major incidents, how they change how everything operates, right? And everything is looked at from, the way people respond and search to the way, cars are parked and how you have to create space for the incoming paramedics and even things like up in dispatch, how dispatch needs to change. And it's awesome how we learn from our mistakes. We're like, we understand, I think as a profession that we're not perfect and we're going to fail when we do these things, especially when we're not used to doing them. And we just have to learn how to do it better the next time.
Let me ask you this. Were your dispatchers part of the debrief?
They were. To the best of my recollection, they were. And we only had 2 working when this happened. And so our dispatch center at the time would do both police and fire.
Yeah.
So they were not only dealing with all the incredible radio traffic going on,
because this
also
was when your agency had their own dispatch center.
Yeah.
Correct.
This was after it was built.
Yeah. I remember I was working in my current agency the night this happened, and it was you popped up on the city to the south frequency, and I was working parking enforcement dispatch at the time, and the girl who was working Manhattan just stood up and said, "El Segundo's got officers down," and every one of our cities just emptied the city there. And I remember I literally just started calling. I called Redondo, Torrance, Palos Verdes, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Culver City.
We may have talked.
I literally just started calling it because normally for us, in order to get mutual aid, you have to get like watch commander approval for the city. And then the city that's going to go, you have to get watch commander approval for them. And then you have to get like supervision approval for us and all that stuff. And at that incident, when it was literally just call people and send help, call people and send help.
And it was interesting too, because at the time, their mayor was high up with the sheriff's department. He happened to be at home and heard on the scanner the radio traffic go out of the 999, and he called SCB and said, activate SCB. So we had SCB activated. We had the sheriff's mobile command posts.
Wow.
By the time
Did he live in your city?
No, he lived in...
so he just had the scanner on.
Yeah. And so by the time we got back to where the CP was, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah. We're trying to get one of the people that got shot to come on. So
if you do that, his story is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, just one of the takeaways from what he was sharing about his experience was how when you're under such stress, your mind sees things. He described it almost like an old foreign film where there's the mouth moving and then you hear the voice.
Yeah.
And just the sequence of events and what was going through his mind, all that, it was.
Yeah. I'd love to. I think that
incredible.
would be just sit here and listen. Just tell me what happened.
Yeah.
I love that. So is that the biggest incident you've ever worked in your career?
The biggest closest to home. I mean, to see my partners that I work with day in and day out. And I mean, ironically enough, when I saw one of them coming in to work that overtime, I'm like, I can't believe they're letting you work this overtime. You know, and he
Is it because he had a brass bar in his lapel?
It was, yeah, and it's because they couldn't fill it otherwise. So I think it was within 24 hours, and a lieutenant could sign up for the overtime.
Wow,
and
that's big bucks right there.
And those that know him, he was funny, former Marine, and liked to talk shit. And you know, he said something like, "Oh, I'm going to get rewarded handsomely for safeguarding the community." And is he laughing as he walks in? The next time I saw him was when you're doing hospital watch.
Yeah,
as he's in a coma.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like,
wow. When he came out, was he in good spirits?
Oh yeah, I mean, he was. He had that personality where he could walk down the hallway and be like, "Chief, you have to do this because I'm a hero." and it didn't come across as cocky. And then, you know, we'd give him a hard time and so the amount of blood was pretty significant, and he ultimately had to have some surgeries down the road where with really good spirits, you know, and
the amount of full of shit references and everything else.
It's a good thing he was out of the Marine Corps when this happened, because he would have never heard the end of it if he was still in.
Yeah, but you know, like as a canine, we're fortunate because we were the first to go on mutual aid.
Yeah.
So I've been to, gosh knows how many officer-involved shootings.
Yeah.
As a handler over 9 years, where, you know, you get there and it's still like, hey, it's one of us. It's a brother, sister in blue. But I didn't have that. Hey, I know that person.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big challenges with the theater shooting. What should have taken place is all of us that were first on scene should have been pulled from it immediately.
Yeah.
We weren't told the update of the officers, the condition of the officers, so we had no idea.
Wow.
And then by the time the thing winded down and we got SWAT there, and SWAT ended up clearing each theater systematically, we found the 3 that my partner described. Yeah. We found 2 others that had guns on them, completely unrelated to the shooting.
Well,
and
you know,
so I think the shooting went down like right before 10 o'clock, and we didn't have the scene secure until probably 1:30.
Wow.
And then got us all together. The first one's on scene, like, okay, go write your reports.
You guys took paper?
Oh yeah, we had to we weren't allowed to go home until we wrote a supplement or a crime report for, you know, it was literally doing rock, paper, scissors. Who's doing the attempted murder on a peace officer police report, and then everybody was going to write a sup. Oh wow! Yeah, that was one of the changes after the.
I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime there's an OIS, at least in our agencies, the sheriff's department comes in and does all that stuff.
I got to admit, I've been at my own agency on duty for probably 6 or 7 officer-involved shootings. The agency I came from is exceptionally well as far as making sure everybody immediately involved is removed, updated, and they take them to the briefing room. They close the briefing room. They get them food, whatever they want.
Yeah.
Call your family, let them know you're fine, do all this sort of stuff. You're done for today.
Yeah.
And that is one thing my old agency did exceptionally well from the time I was hired there.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's exceptions to that rule, like in circumstances require that you not be relieved yet. But
because you're still at the station.
As soon as it happens, as soon as it's physically possible and safe for you to be away, you need to be taken away from that.
Right.
So, even if it's just for, you know, interviews and what happened, or if it's because of your mindset and where you're
They make sure you don't even drive a car.
Yeah.
You don't do anything. They take you back to the station. The brief room's locked off.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
bring
awesome.
it down.
Yeah. I mean, there's very few things I've experienced a lot in my career, and that's probably one of the images that you can never escape from seeing.
Yeah, I bet. So the one incident, it's the one incident that, I mean, and you guys weren't even part of my agency or our agency yet, but it's the one incident when people ask me what's the craziest thing you've ever worked. It's always that. Always that call because it's either that or it's the one that happened a couple years ago at the station. Remember? Yeah. You were gone for this one. We had an active gun battle.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then 6 hours later, the same officer who was in that gun battle was at the station and got into a gun battle at the station because this guy came in to try to execute his ex-wife at the station.
He was successful.
He was. So, but that night and the theater shooting were the two like, holy fuck stories.
You should have been on duty for both of them.
No, I'm glad I wasn't there for the first one. I'll never. The weirdest thing, because I'm not good at this, is such randomness, but it's weird how like everybody has like one thing about an incident that like for some reason sticks in their mind, right? That incident at the station, I remember. I'm not good at geography, but I distinctly remember I stood up, and our supervisor was on the phone with Santa Monica, who had literally just got back to their city, and their SWAT team was turning around.
I remember.
And she was like, "Hey, how do they get there?" And I literally just stood up and I was just like, "Oh, you just go southbound on southbound on the 405 to Rosecrans westbound, and then you're going to turn left again. You're going to head northbound on Hawthorne Boulevard and go up 6 blocks, and you're going to be right there at the Denny's, and they're going to see it at the corner." And I'm like, literally 20 minutes later, I'm like, "How the fuck did I know that?" And even she looked at me and was like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. It just popped in my head." It was the weirdest thing, and I could probably never do it again.
Well, that's like me going back to the old CAD system because at my old agency, CAD was not a priority because it was like your former agency. There was just two of us.
Yeah.
So if you had a lot of tasks to do, CAD took a back seat. You're making your phone calls, you're keeping your notes, you're doing all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I was brand new, and that went down. So I reverted back to my agency where I'd been for 20 years, making my phone calls, doing all that sort of stuff. They're asking questions like, "How do you know?" I was remembered.
I was literally, I had plugged in to get him up from day shift on the graveyard. And as soon as I plugged in, I heard the unit at the station saying shots fired at the station. And I looked at him and I'm like, "Hey, you're sitting, so I'll just stand up and answer questions."
Yeah.
And I remember watching him, and he like wouldn't type anything in the call. I'm like, "Type shit." I was thinking to myself, like, "Type shit in the fucking call." And he wouldn't do it. And then people were asking me questions, and I couldn't remember half the description. And he would just turn around and blurt out the description. I'm like, "How in the do you remember that shit?" I couldn't remember that.
The one I remember looking at you and seeing the weird look on your face when they asked for a roll call, and I had 6 different SWAT teams out there, and I had Officer A, Officer B, Officer C, Officer. I got it.
Yeah.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean I don't have it.
Yeah. It was crazy. So, but anyways, back to your canines, canine career. Well, I guess I'll start with this. If you get to be a canine again in 2023, what is your dream, like, training for that dog? Would you like him to be a bomb dog, a narc dog, an evidence dog? Like, if you had the choice,
what
period,
certifications would you like to have?
So I would do, starting with the dog, I'd probably get a small Malinois.
Okay.
Or a Dutch Shepherd, something like 50 pounds, 60 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small, because realistically, where do we put our dogs? We put them into attics. We put them under houses.
Yeah.
All the places cops don't want to go.
I don't need 100-pound or like Arthur was 89-pound Malinois. It's like, I'd rather have a little pocket rocket.
Yeah.
I'd want to do patrol and probably narcotics again.
Yeah. All right.
With the SWAT. Man, that was a blast.
But you're not an operator, right?
Not an operator. I'm a non-SWAT operator.
We had an inside joke going back for about how SWAT teams like to call themselves operators, and canines are not operators.
Oh,
they're just canine handlers.
One of the good things my old agency did is they would do high risk warrants all the time with like.
Yeah, working with other teams. Yeah.
I mean, so they're probably deploying 6 times a year for high risk warrants, and they looked at that as, hey, this is good training. It's real life. It's a felony warrant. Surrounding all out. I mean, and so a lot of agencies now, like, oh, we're not bringing SWAT out unless it's a barricade. But it's like, this was a great opportunity for us to set up, surround, and call out, because that's the main thing now. Yeah. And then, so at least 4 or 6 times a year, they were doing high risk warrants to get some work, which was good. Yeah.
For a small agency, that's awesome. So you want it to be a narcotics dog and a search dog, or a patrol dog, I should say, and SWAT. So, other than, well, I guess I'll just ask, what's the best part of being a canine handler? Like, what makes it the greatest job in policing?
God, there's so many things. It's like kind of as a kid growing up, you play cops and robbers, and you want to find the bad guy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than showing up to containment and like, oh, canine's here. And you're like, I'm going to be the one. I hope my dog finds this guy.
Does your current agency try to have a canine on 24/7 at some point?
We have 7-day-a-week coverage. And
Okay.
so the goal with adding a fourth dog would be pretty much a day shift and swing shift.
Okay.
And then our dogs are on call when they're not working.
How many cars does your agency field a shift?
It depends on the shift. My team is 18 plus 3 sergeants plus a canine plus usually a DUI car.
Do you run as Lincolns or Adams?
All Lincoln cars.
All the time?
All the time unless we're training.
Wow. That's how you know it's a safe town, when you're running a Lincoln car at night all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in Orange County, but even the agency I came from, that was common.
Well,
Yeah, but you used to work at Mayberry, so
That's true.
have you noticed though, since we've gone to INSB, a lot of the incidents in our cities aren't covered anymore?
yeah, that's because a lot of the frequencies, all of them but one are
The encryption.
However, there's a new Assembly bill or Senate bill. Actually, I think it got defeated. Mandate that all law enforcement agencies no longer encrypt their frequencies and that they all be public access.
We're fortunate in Orange County because everything is encrypted, so we don't get all the stringer media.
Yeah.
No, I can't believe he hasn't come down there. But if we go on our red channel, which is the countywide emergency channel,
Yeah.
then it's not encrypted.
Yeah. It's anybody who wants to. Yeah. So
That's if you got a big incident and then it puts all agencies on the same page or something like that.
No, so it's kind of weird. If you go out of your city, say you're following a stolen vehicle, you just get on the red channel and use your normal call sign. Hey, I'm following a stolen vehicle. I'm northbound 405 from the 55. I need an airship and units to assist. And you stay on red channel through the completion of the thing, and our dispatch is just monitoring red.
So every dispatch center has access to this channel. And whatever city you're in is in charge of it.
No, so it's managed by the sheriff's department.
Okay.
So it's sheriff dispatchers that do it.
Okay.
Every police car has red channel on at all times. And then it saves, if our neighboring agency, Santa Ana, comes into our city all the time in pursuit.
Okay.
So they just come on red. Hey, we're in pursuit. This is where we're at. This is what we need. And we just go. We get on red. We coordinate on red. And so it saves
Dispatchers a lot of times too, making phone calls and doing all that junk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes it pretty simple. So
That's nice.
yeah. Yeah. So if you couldn't be a canine handler, what would be your second job to do in law enforcement?
I think I'm doing it now as an FTO.
FTO?
Yeah.
All right.
It's really, it's very challenging,
Uh-huh.
but it's rewarding knowing that, I'm helping the future generations going to replace me to do the job and do it well.
What phase is your current trainee in?
The one I finished with is phase 2. So we have 3 phases of training.
Okay.
And then I get a phase 1 trainee in Thursday.
What's your favorite phase to teach?
I think phase 1.
Yeah.
Like
Get them raw.
get them right out of the academy. We hire a lot of laterals, so I like the laterals too because I went through there, so I can relate to what they're going through.
Yeah. Are you a hard ass?
No, I am when I need to be.
Yeah.
But how I was trained way back when, times are different.
Yes, they are.
Like I had an FTO, who I think you're trying to get on the podcast. He took me to McDonald's and said I should go pick up an application because I clearly can't do police work.
Damn.
You can't really do that anymore.
No, you can't. I remember I was on this was 17 years ago. I was on a ride along one time, and it was a cadet back, so I was 18, 19 years old, and I was with an FTO, and he literally, I remember this, he parked next to a wall at a Mediterranean restaurant, and he said, "I'm going to eat dinner. You need to study the map." And I was like, "Wow, that's fucked up." So he parked so close to the wall that I couldn't even get out of the car. Like he parked next to a wall on the passenger side next to the wall, got out and said, "I'm going to eat dinner. You need to study a map." And I was like, "Okay, guess this is how it's going to be."
Yeah, things have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the new generation, younger officers coming in need to be taught a little differently.
Yes. The way in which we teach them needs to change. And that's up in dispatch too.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we can't even tell them like, hey, you should drive around you need to drive around on the weekend on your own time to learn the city. And it's because then they can put in for overtime. So it's a different animal right now.
Yeah. It is.
That's the big thing. Like you can't give them homework.
Mm-mm. Any assignments I give them, I give them time on duty to do it.
Right.
Now, if they do it on their own, that's on them.
Right. Because
But-
I designated this time for them to do it.
Yep.
When I need something like that, or like geography mostly for dispatch at least, I tell the trainees like, I can't tell you what to do on your time off, but when I was training, this is what I had to do to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And most of the time they'll pick up on it and be like, okay. And then they come in the next day and they're like, did you do anything last night?
Yeah.
Oh,
As
yeah,
opposed
I
to
went
when,
I went over a map and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah.
as opposed to when we were on training, handed manuals, and you'll know this tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So which one's more stressful, being a canine or being an FTO?
Well, at least with a canine, I could do a leash correction on my dog.
Can't do that with the trainee?
As a trainee, you're like, go have a seat in the car. I'll be right back.
Which one's follow commands better?
Wait, look at your trainee. Hey, this might shock.
I mean, I wish that at our training, I wish we had FTO cars that had like a brake pedal on,
yeah.
a driver's training.
Yeah.
Like I had a trainee recently that tried to get on the off ramp of a major roadway, and cars were coming at us and I'm yelling at him to stop, and he's still going. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking die.
Wow. Yeah. I think he might have had a little too much stress. He needs to,
Yeah.
did he make it?
That or he cowboyed up a little too much.
Well, the question is, did he make it?
He's with a different FTO now.
Same agency though. That's good. They're giving him a chance.
He needs a little work.
Won't we all?
Yeah, we're very fortunate because our agency, as much as we're trying to get bodies, when we have our FTO meetings, and our FTO sergeants, FTO lieutenant are like, if they're not cutting it, we're not going to keep. We'll do what we can to try to help them.
Yeah.
But if we've tried
nothing's worth jeopardizing safety.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, there's certain no-nos where you're just like,
Yeah.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny part is when I went to, the commander went to chief.
A little bit of a flip.
Oh,
Yeah.
Have you seen the Freeway Patrol, the cartoon series?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No.
It's by a CHP guy.
Oh God.
Do
Is this
tell.
on YouTube?
It's on YouTube.
Freeway Patrol.
I think it's Freeway Patrol, and they have all these episodes, and it's usually making fun of one of their coworkers. And there's the
I'm so gonna love this.
this is gotta be cool.
There is a fantastic one where it's the guy's like, 111. I think I got to run a traffic break. I think there's an obstruction in the roadway, and yep, I'm turning around right now, and it is hysterical because we've all worked with those people. That you're like,
So that's actually kind of a good segue, since we've been talking about the old ways going into the new. In your opinion, what are if you can think of one or several, has been the most profound change in public safety since you started?
I think technology.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, the drones. That's incredible. We all have department issued phones now.
Yeah.
We're starting to go to e-sites, so you're scanning DLs, printing sites. We have
even on moving violations.
Oh yeah. And petty theft in custody, dope stuff. I scan their DL. It auto populates, drop down, prints out the citation for you.
Really?
Parking
I didn't know
sites.
that at
Yeah.
all.
And the greatest thing is that that saves however many professional staff hours at the station, because now you're not manually entering sites in your RMS system, and you're not manually entering all these other stupid reports in RMS. It's literally just boom, 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 click. Thanks.
And then it's all tied in.
Yeah.
And
It's all integrated.
like our new CAD that we just switched to, our CAD provider, they've had to have representatives from the company at our station for the first 2 months trying to resolve and troubleshoot some of the issues that weren't going to be issues. So our new CAD system, one of the nice features is on your cell phone, you have CAD on your cell phone.
Yeah.
You can pull DRs. If I'm on the call, I can run somebody from my cell phone through JADIC. If I'm on a report call or traffic collision or anything, I scan the DL, it populates into the call. And then so later when I come to report write, I just pull it off from the call, so I don't have to sit there and duplicate it all.
And you don't have to go over the air with this.
No, and people still do.
Yeah.
Most people.
It makes it so easy.
The problem I see with a lot of younger officers is they don't bother to learn how to read JADIC returns.
Yes.
And so they just rely on dispatch. And I mean, we have, like I said, we have 60 patrol cars. There's some days you come in and there's 2 left in the lot. So we have a lot of people out there. And so people have gotten a lot better at running them on the MDC, but your handheld, you can run them if you know what you're doing. So I think some of the positive changes are technology.
Yeah. It's crazy. Just to think from the time I started, 15 years ago until now, the amount of technology change is awe-inspiring. Awe-inspiring.
And the other neat thing with this CAD and having handhelds, as soon as I get out of my car on the dispatch map, it shows my car and it shows me on foot.
Oh, really?
So it can tell you exactly where that officer is. If you're setting up a containment, dispatch can look and be like, oh, okay, I got somebody here. The car's here.
Yeah. So I remember years ago, that would have been frowned upon so much by all the POAs because it's Big Brother watching. Well, why do you need to know where I am all the time and what I'm doing if I'm in my car, if I'm on foot, or if I'm at the 7-Eleven for 2 hours reading a magazine, or is that still the mentality, or has that changed when it comes to like GPS locations of your personnel?
I think with the agency I'm at, like we have a very good management.
Yeah.
Like our chief and command staff, we have a new chief, but he's risen through the ranks, and the previous chief rose through the ranks. And the culture at my agency is very much we train and trust you.
That's awesome.
And I know that if we have a critical incident, all body cameras can be reviewed, all in-car cameras can be reviewed. So it's not like they're hiding what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that comes from having a culture in the organization that, hey, we're not going to screw you over.
Yeah.
We
do the right thing and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. We all make mistakes. And I think my agency treats you very well.
Yeah. That's good. That's a lot. I think that's a lot of what a lot of people's problems are with a lot of agencies is they don't trust their administration.
Yes.
To do what's best for them. So
it's sad. It's like that, because we always hope that the leaders, and whether it's the police department, fire department, city hall, are doing things for the right reason.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Or even a CEO of a private company that they're doing things for the right reason.
Yeah. And
it's kind of disheartening to see, and that could be because we're promoting people so young with limited experience, and it's
that right there.
Yeah.
I feel bad for these new officers coming on because they got to work till 57. And it's like, okay, you got 3 years on, put in for this. It's like, no, how about you do 5 years in patrol?
Yeah, because you got
become an expert
30 years plus to go still. So, do you think that 21's a good hiring age for police officers, or do you think it's too young?
I think it's a little young, but then I started at 22.
Yeah.
But I think the difference for me was I had the experience as a cadet and dispatcher, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. I grew up in a law enforcement family.
Yeah, you didn't come off the streets with nothing.
Also, being a parent, and from what you've seen in your, line of work, a 21-year-old when you were 21 isn't a 21-year-old mostly of what a 21-year-old is today.
No.
Yeah. No, that's
if you understand what I'm saying, which I'm
that's
sure you do.
definitely true.
Oh, yeah. No, we have a lot of trainees that are 22, 23, still living at home.
Yeah.
And I'm not faulting them for that because it's, they're doing it to save up money for a house and stuff.
Yeah.
But
makes a background check real simple too.
It seems that some of the life experiences is missing.
Yes.
And I've seen it seems like our job is so much more complex now because we're doing less law enforcement, more social work.
Yes.
And it's
so true.
It's we don't know who can solve this in the city, so we'll let the police do it. And so we're going in on call that will come in as like a domestic violence call, and it's not. It's a mental health where a 31-year-old has schizophrenia that's never been diagnosed, and this is going on, and there's substance abuse, and these 21-year-olds, it's very challenging for them to. They're very linear. It's A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
Right.
If you go from A to D and then have to jump back to B, it's a.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I'm willing to bet that even though the academy probably is shifted a lot in the mentality towards training for mental illness and recognizing it and teaching that, still, even if you spent 6 weeks or 6 months at the academy and that's all you did, you still wouldn't have enough experience to really understand how to apply that. I don't think, especially when you're that young. So I do think that,
and
it just comes with age, right?
That, and I think departments need to have longer training programs.
Yeah.
The notion that we can push somebody through in 4 months is probably kind of unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're doing so much more than actual policing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
And some of the laws have changed, and case law changes daily, and I think we need to put them on training longer, but then there's but we need bodies in patrol. So it's
Right.
And you're seeing a lot of these young officers coming out of the academy terrified to do anything because of liability.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, you got officers that are afraid to go do their job because they're just going to get sued.
I don't blame them.
First thing
I
they do
understand
wrong.
the mentality.
Mm-hmm. And now we got to do RIPAs on traffic stops, and
I can't believe that still.
yeah,
But the other, I mean, that's the crazy thing when you come back to profound changes about technology too. It's like, do you remember when body cams came out, how everybody was against them?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh, that body cam saved me from
Yeah.
getting fired. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird how the mentality shift just once they realize
Well, it's
it's good
amazing
for them.
how many bogus complaints it proved wrong.
That too. Yeah. Yeah. But
Like people that would just come in with a bullshit complaint about an officer during a traffic stop. Well, hey, do you know the whole traffic stop's on video? Let's take a look. Oh, your complaint's full of shit.
yeah.
that's how my previous agency, my current one, it's like, oh, okay, let's come in, sit down, and let's watch the body cam footage. Oh,
Yeah.
there's footage.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to notice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The big 3-inch square that's on your chest that says, you know, looks like a camera. Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, technology. It makes you kind of wonder where the next evolution is. So, so we'll move into, we just have a couple more questions for you, but they're kind of longer ones. So, what are 3 things that you would tell your younger self about police work, before you became a cop?
I think one of the most important, and I think we're finally seeing it in law enforcement, is that your family should always come first.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in law enforcement, so I was 100% focused on law enforcement, and
Yeah.
work always came first. And it took me several years into my career to realize that no matter how many special assignments I volunteer for, collateral assignments I do, those types of things, it's not going to benefit me in promoting. It's not going to
Uh-huh.
do all those things. And I think that would lead into the second thing. Do things in your career that you want to do. You know?
Yeah.
I've seen so many people that they do things because it looks good to check a box, or, oh, this will
Yeah.
look good for this. And I just can't see those people as being super happy
Yeah.
long term. You know, so I would tell people getting into this, do what you want to do, because it's a long career and it's a long journey. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And I think I would tell my younger self too to be a little bit more understanding of people's circumstances. You know,
People that you're dealing with in the field.
yeah, you know, like I might not agree with what you've done or the decisions you've made, but also I don't know your upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that my experience as a canine handler, I mean, we'd go into some poor areas, but you'd get to interact with the residents there that a lot of them are just hardworking people.
Yeah.
You know, they support you. They can't publicly because of where they live,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of good, hardworking people out there. Not everybody's anti-police. You know, we have a lot of support out there. And so just kind of approach people with an open mind and kind of not so much, oh, I'm judging you because of what kind of car you're driving.
Yeah. That's huge. You know, because I think we get bogged down today, especially today, all of us, in the negativity of police work, because all you see really on social media and the news is just the negative aspects of it, right? You never see really the positive side of it. So
Well, right. It goes back to the old adage. How many radio calls have you responded to where the nature of the call was to thank you?
None. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. So, and that's what you're saying is a big reason why I wanted to even start this podcast, is to try and give people, hey, you know, just because the news says cops are evil doesn't mean that we are. Like,
Right.
this is a great profession. It's a great family to be a part of, and that more people should be understanding of what they go through and the things they do to be in it. So,
Yeah. It's I've always felt my career so supported by the communities. It doesn't matter where I've worked. People appreciate you.
Yeah.
You know, and you'll hear, oh, you're just the thin blue line and you all stick together. And it's like, I want the bad apples out more than the community does.
Yes.
yes,
You know,
Oh,
it's like,
so true.
because everything we have to do now is because somebody screwed up.
Yep.
And somebody that shouldn't have been a cop became one. And it's like, no, I don't want to work with that person.
Yeah,
You know, I want to work with people I trust that are going to do the right thing when nobody's looking.
exactly.
And I know that the public overwhelmingly supports us.
Yeah.
You know, none of them want to sign up and do this job. None of them understand the challenges we face. Or, I mean, we've had a really rough couple weeks at work where we've had 3 fatalities, one of them involving a 2-year-old, and suicides almost daily, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's like, people don't understand with what we deal with, but I think they kind of do a little bit, and they understand that we do a lot of stuff that most people don't want to see and deal
Oh
with.
yeah. You know, it's,
Yeah.
you deal with the you deal with nothing but negativity when it comes to calls for service, right?
Right.
And you have to figure out a way to cope and deal with that. And I think that the majority of the population, that's the silent type that never goes out and makes any big noise or makes any waves, that they're the ones that really appreciate you all the time. And it's they realize, I think, at least I hope they realize that you're doing the job that they don't want to do, and that you deserve the praise and the credit for it. So
I mean, it's funny. Even when the BLM protest started off, and a couple of years ago, we had 500 to 1,000 protesters outside of our station every day.
yeah,
And they would flag you down and be like, "Hey, we just want you to know we love you. We're here because you'll keep it safe for us. We're just protesting the bad cops."
hey,
And it's kind
Cool.
of an interesting.
yeah, that's good. Like those are the kind of things
Right.
like that's the perfect protest, right? Like literally the perfect protest.
Yeah.
You go out there and like, hey, I appreciate you out here, and you're exercising your First Amendment right for whatever
Right.
you think. And I agree. And as working for the police, I'm an officer, but I agree with you. We want the bad apples out
Yes,
because they're
definitely.
the ones that ruin it for everybody.
Pick the rotten
you
apple
can
off the
do, you
tree.
can do 30 years of exemplary service and never have a complaint, and then one partner makes one bad decision in his
Right.
career, and your 30 years goes down the shitter. That's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, we want that person gone so that everybody can be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. I want them out. And that's, I think, why I love training so much, is because I see some people that come through. They're like, I don't want you to be in my car with me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a perfect segue to my next question, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. What are 3 things you tell your trainees on their first day?
So I usually will tell them,
How about this? Take us through day one.
so day one with the trainee, I'll sit down and give them my expectations, basic expectations of showing up on time,
Uh-huh.
asking good questions or asking questions. I don't care how dumb it is. Like, I'd rather you ask that tells me you're paying attention to things.
Right.
I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a stupid question. There's only the idiot that never asks.
Yeah.
Right.
I tell them, hey, get comfortable in the uncomfortable,
Uh-huh.
because we walk into situations that are very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And the sooner you can get comfortable in that, the better you'll be.
Yeah.
And I tell them, like, have fun with this. Like, you get to talk to people. You get paid to talk to people. You're going to go in on a domestic violence, and you're going to be like, hey, what happened? And they're going to give you 20 years of history
Yeah.
about all the affairs that have gone on, all the
Right.
weird stuff. And you're like, yeah, but like, what happened today?
Yeah.
So I just tell them to have fun with it. Like, there's a lot to learn. Be okay making mistakes. We all make them. We were all in your shoes, but have a positive attitude. I don't want excuses.
Yeah.
You make a mistake, we'll talk about it. Make sure you understand why you screwed up.
Yeah.
And we'll move forward.
I think that's in all walks of life, in every position, in every job. Like, the one thing that people need to remember is like, hey, we're humans. We're gonna make a mistake. We're gonna mess up. We're gonna hopefully you have somebody there that's willing to teach you how to do it better the next time and learn from it. So it's just one of those things.
And I'll also tell them too, like, we do a new officer orientation. So I teach our FTO lecture day, and I'll finish it with, hey guys, you might get out in the field and this is not for you. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this isn't for me.
Absolutely.
Because we had a trainee quit 4 days in. They got in pursuit of some gangsters that tossed a gun in the car, and he realized, like, this wasn't for him. And I respect him, because this job is not for everybody.
Nope.
And I think some of these trainees struggle. They get into it, and they don't realize how much is involved in this job, and they realize, like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And you're just putting myself or my partners or yourself at risk for getting hurt.
What's a lighthearted, memorable moment you have with a trainee?
Oh gosh, I had a trainee pull into this is pretty recent. I have a lot of fond memories with trainees, but this trainee pulled into we're going to go pick up some video at an apartment complex. So he pulls into the handicap space.
Oh, jeez.
And I had to do a second take, because I'm like, a lot of these apartments, they have the future resident parking. And I'm like, well, maybe I misread the sign. And so he puts the car in park and takes the keys out of the ignition. I'm like, wow, he's really going to park in a handicap space. And I let him get about a step out, and hey, are you disabled? And he goes, no, sir. And he just had this awkward stare, like,
What did I do wrong? What are you
said,
talking about?
You do realize we're in a handicap zone and you're not disabled. You don't have a placard displayed, so you can't park here. Oh, well, there was nowhere else to park. And I'm like, okay.
Go down the street and walk.
I go, well, you better move your car, because I'm going to write you a parking ticket. And he had this, like, he later asked, he was like, sir, how am I going to pay this parking ticket? It's like,
That's his response.
Did you at the end of it? Did you actually have to tell him get in the car and move, or did he figure it out?
No, he figured it out.
Okay, good. Yeah,
It
This
probably
had to be
lasted
phase
about
one.
10 seconds. No, it wasn't. You know, it's funny because trainees will sometimes do things that you can't help but laugh. Or
Yeah.
This other one I had that was great. He's like, sir, I want to work on consensual encounters. Cool. Let's go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And the hardest part about being an FTO is, he wanted to go talk to this guy at a bus bench that clearly just got off work. He's waiting for the bus, has his backpack on, has his work ID hanging from him. But okay, go talk to him.
Yeah.
And so he gets out and he's like, hey, sir, how you doing? The guy goes, oh, officer, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. And they have this staring contest because the trainee doesn't know what to do next. And then the guy starts looking at me and I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. And then I just let them stare at each other for a little bit longer. And then I turn to my trainee and I go, I think he's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Have a good night. Get back in the car. Just like,
Those are awesome, but it like everybody has to go through that.
You look
right?
at
Like,
him. Why did you think that went?
yeah.
yeah. But those are one of those things like everybody has to go through that, right? Like even
Yeah.
up in dispatch when you train people
Oh,
like,
yeah.
they're like talking on the phone and they just don't know what to say and they're like,
Because they're struggling to pry the right information.
Yeah.
And you could just see, it's almost like that
Yeah.
awkward first date.
yeah.
I like walks on the beach.
Yeah. And you sit there quietly long enough and then they ask, are you still there? Or
Yeah.
they ask in the field,
Yeah.
do you need anything?
Yeah,
Or
you'll see that a lot on trainees the first time they handle a sexual assault investigation
Oh, really?
because it's
It's things you don't really talk about usually with a stranger.
did he
Yeah.
just ask.
There's some interesting people in the world. There's some
That's why I
very
can't believe we get paid to
interesting
do
people.
this.
Oh yeah.
You go to their house and they're like, oh, officer, let me tell you a story. And you're like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah. It's basically the most interesting job in the world.
Yeah, I can't believe I
So-
get paid to do it.
Yeah.
I took one when I was a dispatcher the first go round where a guy needed fire because he stuck his penis in a Dr. Pepper bottle, one of the smallmouth ones. Oh, I take it back. So what had happened was the friend called in. I checked the welfare because they're like, hey, this sounds a little weird, but I have a friend. He's out in California. He's staying at this hotel.
Uh-huh.
And he told me his penis is turning black because he's got a Dr. Pepper bottle stuck on his penis. Can you send him out? So they sent
Yeah. Fire department goes out.
fire and police go out on
Yeah,
this
of course.
one.
Of course.
And sure enough, he said he was driving back from Vegas and he had to go pee. So he put his penis in this Dr. Pepper bottle. Well, and it turned black. So they fire transports him to the hospital, and sergeant's like, "Hey, what happened with that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'll call the hospital. We'll find out on this one." And the nurse is kind of like, "Why are you calling?" I'm like, "Because we think it might be a crime." And no, it was. There's nothing criminal, but he's going to lose his penis.
No. I had one.
My thing is like, I'm sorry, but if you could get it in there, how come you couldn't get it out?
I know. How did you leave it on for a day?
Well, yeah, there's that.
A
Well, the embarrassment.
day?
It was a day later
Yeah.
that the friend called us.
Yeah,
Because
it's
he
the
called his
embarrassment.
friend and was like, "Hey, I'm in a little situation. What should I do?"
Yeah,
The friend called us.
it's the embarrassment.
So 911 call from a guy. No joke. He needs fire department. He's bleeding from down there.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? He had a cyst on his penis and he tried to remove it himself and he punctured his penis straight through.
This is an interesting recording. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie. We've covered a lot of random points on this one.
Jeff's
So-
going to go on his Amazon page of work, be like, one goddamn search. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at
I'm gonna load this fucking memory card into my computer, and now all of a sudden I'm just gonna have fucking yeah. So, anyways, so you've worked in the field as an officer and in dispatch. This was kind of a biased question, but which one's more difficult?
I think they're both difficult in different ways. It's more difficult now going back as a police officer in dispatching and call taking than it was my first go around,
Why do you think that is?
because I'm trying to ask questions like an officer and not triaging the call.
Okay.
And so I have to remind myself, like, hey, I'm just got to get the basic info, the info we need.
Uh-huh.
Time permitting, I'll ask more detailed questions so the officers that are going know.
Yeah.
And I start thinking like, hey, we should probably run this for guns and things like that. So
Yeah.
I'll start doing some of that workup. But I think dispatch is probably more challenging because you're not seeing what's going on.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to get information from people that are, a lot of times hysterical, aren't answering your questions. In our city, they're speaking a different language.
Yes.
So we're having to deal with language line. And then
Who never translate, right?
no. And then, you're trying to find out where they're at. And now with like Rapid SOS, where you can actually see, it's a little bit better. So I think dispatching is probably more challenging for not being able to see what's going on. And if I go on a call, I kind of know the outcome, know what happened, and I have closure. Where dispatch, so especially on some of these critical incidents, they're dealing with the fatal car accident just came in. The next call is a neighbor dispute over a parking space, and they're having to quickly reset and be like, okay, I'll get somebody out there as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. And you have to treat everybody the same all the time.
He brought up an excellent point. That's the one biggest downfall of the JPA is never getting the dispo. Because when I was at my first agency, people come down, talk to you, let you know, because they know you want to know and they want to give you some closure. And being around the actual station, you can get that information. Mm-hmm. But being a JPA isolated away,
it makes a difference.
That's the one aspect that I wish I could change.
Yeah.
Like I'm conscious of that. So if we have critical incident, I'll go up to dispatch after. I'm like, do you guys want to know what happened?
Yeah.
And kind of any questions,
let
them
awesome.
know, because I think it's important.
Yeah. So, do you think in training, I don't know how your agency does dispatch training, obviously, but I know that your agency is very well known around the country for their training manuals and their training policies and stuff like that, especially in dispatch. Do you think it would be beneficial in working from the field side to integrate or include for at least like at least a day, but like maybe like a week or so, a dispatcher who's in training into like a full-time ride along for a week or something like that, just so that they can understand why officers in the field do things the way they do. For example, when you're responding code 3 to a call, you're thinking of 60 different things at once, right? How do I get there? What's the safest way to get there? What am I going to do when I'm on scene? If I see this, what am I going to do this? If I see that, I'm going to do this. Where a dispatcher is just seeing updates in a call and they're drowning the air with superfluous information that you don't need. Do you think it would be helpful or beneficial to bring that dispatcher into the field for a week or so and just be like, this is why we want this happening on the radio. This is why we want this happening on the radio. This is why we want you to ask questions A, B, and C and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do that at my current agency. We have dispatchers come out, and it depends. It depends on their phase, I believe, because our dispatchers, it's call taking first.
Uh-huh.
Then they go to secondary, which is all your running people for wants and warrants, calling the tow truck, calling fire. And then they go to primary, which is dispatching the calls, taking the traffic stops. And I believe at each phase of that, they come on at least one ride along.
Okay.
So it kind of, hopefully they can see why certain information is important to ask first.
Yeah.
And then we also do that with our officers in training. They go up and sit and dispatch.
Do they do that in first phase or third phase or?
It's generally third phase.
Okay.
How much time do they spend in dispatch?
A full shift.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's probably better in like second phase.
Yeah.
Because they're around enough in the field to kind of know what's going on and how calls are. And then it allows them to go up there and see how busy our dispatch center is.
Yeah.
And, why using your MDC, or why that radio information doesn't need to go out, or why it's okay to hit the arrive button on an MDC.
Yeah.
Do you think, if it allowed, take a trainee that you got first phase, have him sit with someone first phase dispatch, second phase, have him sit with someone second phase dispatch, just one day? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's helpful because I think a lot of times officers don't necessarily understand what dispatch is going through, and dispatchers don't understand what an officer is going through.
Yeah.
And I think, one, it would create more camaraderie.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly my point too.
Because there's something like, I know when I was in my old agency, I knew a lot of the dispatchers, and you could, if they were sassy on the radio, you'd call them like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
You know, and you hash it out, and you knew them, and you could go by, especially as a canine, like we're out of the city a lot, so it was easy to come by and stop and say hi to people.
And everybody loves petting a dog.
Everybody loves a dog. So I think it would be beneficial for both.
Yeah.
I even think continuing our current dispatchers that have been dispatching years should, once or twice a year, it should be almost like a quarterly thing where, hey, today, instead of answering phones or working the comm center, you're going to go on a ride along for 10 hours.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you guys have your dispatchers go to briefing?
Yes.
Yeah. That is something that working in JPA, it's not possible, but that I think is so important if you have a single agency, just because,
We did that at our prior.
yeah, because A, it's the camaraderie, but B, you know, in a dispatch center, you're not always up to date on the most current things, laws, rules, regulations.
Not only that, it was also another
Tactics.
avenue for getting the closure.
Yeah. So like, it's just so good when you can actually sit there and like that, being involved in debriefings and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's just huge.
And it's nice when they're here because they can sometimes fill us in on information or, hey, here's what's going on today. Here's what we're having issue. And you're like, oh, that's cool. It's good to know.
Yeah. So, speaking of everybody loves dog, do you guys have an emotional support dog?
We have 2.
Yeah. Are they officers that are handlers, or are they the professional staff?
One is assigned to our PIO, Press
Okay.
Information Office, and the other is assigned to an SRO, School Resource Officer.
Okay. So, do you think that they're a good tool to have?
You know, surprisingly, we just had a critical incident debrief about 2 weeks ago
Uh-huh.
for a fatality that involved a 2-year-old. And so we're doing the debrief, and they just brought him in.
Yeah.
And it was for, in my aspect of it, I was at the hospital and dealing with the family and seeing the baby and all that. And kind of, as you're going through critical incident debrief, the dog would just kind of come up to you and just put its head on your lap. And in a weird way, it was very surreal. Like, wow, it's actually kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
most people love dogs, and just having that dog coming around and petting you, and one of them, he kind of moans if he's not getting attention. And so it's kind of funny, you know, we're not funny, but
It's amazing how much they're like people.
we're doing this debrief, and then all of a sudden, you know, there'd be like that lull, and then you'd hear a moan, and it would just kind of provide a little,
a little relief.
a little comedic relief.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Just when everybody needs it.
yeah,
So yeah,
I think it's a great thing.
it's crazy how they are trained to basically like know where and when the people need them. So they are so cool. I love them. If we could have a canine in a dispatch center, it would be perfect. Emotional support dog in a canine center would be the greatest thing ever.
I don't know why they couldn't.
So I think the main thing, it would just be like, if you're understaffed, you wouldn't have the ability to go for relief for the dog and all that stuff, unless your agency's willing to let it go inside, or you have a balcony or something. So, because that would be, you know, the dog has to go, and you know, you're stuck on a 5150 call for the next 35 minutes. And
Right.
So,
Budget impact, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
yeah, but it would just be, because I mean, in dispatch especially, I think it would be perfect, because every time we get dog visitors, the atmosphere of the room changes instantly, especially if it's the emotional support dogs, because they're usually like Goldens or something like that, right? So, I mean, it's weird. You just look at the room, even where we work, when they come in there, and everybody smiles. Everybody smiles.
Oh gosh, when I'd go see LT.
Oh yeah,
Oh my God.
it's a 180, right?
100.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, you're not the same person on
Nope.
the radio.
Nope. Oh, LT. Rest in peace, LT.
God, that was so sad. She was so, I had nothing but great experiences with like the people.
Yeah.
All the dispatchers were just wonderful people.
Yeah. I remember my very first day with LT training in PD. She made me tie her shoe for her. And yeah, I did it.
Were you at the new facility or the old one?
I've only been at the new one.
The old one. That was the best.
Yeah. It was like basically the size of this garage. So
walk up the ramp. What's the goal 3-5 years from now? I know you want to be a handler next year. After that.
So my goal would be to retire in about 7 years.
Okay.
And then maybe go over where my wife works to double dip for 5.
Mm-hmm.
And just sail off into the sunset.
In that next 7 years, any
On
plans
a
for
Disney
stripes?
No, I my goal is canine, and I'll retire as a handler.
Okay.
Yeah.
he wants to sail off into the sunset on a Disney cruise.
Yeah, I just, you know, being an FTO, you see what it's like supervising and managing one person.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that managing a team.
Would it be for the county you're currently working in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a program for retired people that want to
Gotcha.
double dip. So you go
Sure.
be a bailiff or
Really?
something like that. Yeah.
Court liaison.
Yeah. Just all rise.
I would do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat, man.
Oh,
If I ever
absolutely.
became a sheriff and I had the choice between being a jailer in a jail,
I'll take court all
or a
day.
court, I'll take court any day of the week.
It's pretty coveted to get in the courts, but
Yeah.
if
I'm
you're
sure.
if you're a retiree that's coming over,
Yeah.
they're pretty good about getting you in there. And I want to work till 55.
Yeah.
Then I'll just retire and
Yeah.
travel and just enjoy life.
And if you get court, think about the schedule too.
Yeah.
You already know what your schedule is.
Yeah.
Yeah, holidays off.
Right.
And every other Friday. How long's the wife got?
Let's see. She's younger, so she's probably got 15 more years to go.
15 years? Okay. That's good, though, man. You'll be retired, and you'll double dip right at the time she's ready to go.
Yeah.
And
And we're dual income, no kids.
yeah, that's awesome. You guys going to stay in California?
Probably.
Really?
You know, we talk about getting out, but I mean, by the time we retire, this house will be paid for.
Yeah, you can't
And-
beat that.
And we're so close to where we live. You know, you can beat a Long Beach airport super quick, or
Yeah.
John Wayne, or LAX, God forbid.
Yeah,
You know, and I think we'll probably make this our base camp,
yeah.
because the thought of moving out of state, like we had the neighbors 2 doors down from us, they moved to Texas, you know,
Uh-huh.
screw California, and they're back.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, man, my whole family moved to Kentucky, and my mom is always like, "Come move to Kentucky, move to Kentucky. Move. You could do the same thing out here." I'm like, I make as much money as a police captain does in Kentucky as a dispatcher in California, so I can't move, Mom. But at the same time, I'm like, God, it'd be nice to get out of the state and just go live where there's no people around. And
I sometimes wonder too, because of our profession, we're kind of in tune with the politics more.
yeah,
I would agree with that
And-
observation.
And I can't help but think when I retire, maybe I'll
Not
be
be
less,
into- yeah.
I'll be less in tune with what's going on.
hopefully,
And you know, the nice thing about here is we always have a house here, and
Yeah.
maybe buy something out of state
yeah.
and bounce
Yeah.
back and forth. But
You guys
There's-
big travelers, international?
not international.
Yeah,
But I think there's so many places in this country I want to see.
yeah.
And
Hey, I hear that. My 4Runner's plastered with stickers of places I want to go or places I've been, and I have a whole stack of stickers at home, places I want to be next. So
yeah, especially after going to Alaska this summer.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh, I want to go explore that more.
my goal this year is 2022 is to ship my car to Anchorage and spend 2 weeks going up to Dead Horse and then all around, and hopefully get in the Arctic Ocean and come back home.
Yeah, because the ferry from Washington's like 3 days up there, right?
So I want to ship my car out of Long Beach, hopefully, and it'll pick it up in Homer, and I'll fly up to Homer and then take the car up, back, and then ship it home.
Oh wow.
So because I used to be able to get like 13, 14 weeks off at work, and I can't do that anymore. So yeah, but anyways, I'm a big traveler, so
You had to work 89 days in a row to do it, but
I was okay with it.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
man,
for having
thanks
me.
for-
Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks
Yeah.
for letting us crash in your garage. We really appreciate it. And
Well, it's a man cave, so
yeah, it's not a garage.
It's not
There's
a
no
garage.
car in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got nice floors. There's no and a TV on the wall. There's no garage. So, and is that a sauna?
It
back there?
is. Yeah, I got that right as COVID was starting.
Yeah.
Some guy bought it at the Orange County Fair, paid like $4,000 for it, and then had a heart attack, and with a pacemaker couldn't use it. So I got it for $1,500.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
With the perfect topping on it.
Yes, the
The light bar.
light bar on top. Yeah,
That is
yeah,
My
it's
old-
pretty cool.
My old K9 light bar.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I just have to ask though, how do you even get the damn bikes off the roof?
So I use the box over there.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm kind of tall too, so it's easy for me to get them down.
And you got the nice Rogue setup.
I'm a Rogue snob, so everything in here is Rogue.
Hey, there's a reason.
Yeah.
They make the greatest stuff on the planet.
Yeah. And then my Peloton, I love that thing.
We got a Peloton at work. They got us one for like wellness and stuff.
Oh wow.
It's not the bike though. It's the treadmill. So, do you row a lot? I gotta ask.
Unfortunately, yeah.
It's the greatest. I mean, I know I'm fat, but if I could choose a avenue of cardio I had to do, I would row any day of the week.
Yeah, I used to have the assault bike, and then until we got the Peloton, I'm like, I got to free up some room.
Yeah.
And so I'll use the rower. I try to do like 3, maybe 4 wads a week.
Okay.
I follow this guy on Instagram that puts together some pretty good stuff.
Okay. For law enforcement, or is it just in CrossFit?
Yeah, it's just CrossFit. They're more 25, 35-minute wads.
Okay.
I just throw things together when I
Yeah.
see fit, and then do some cardio on the Peloton the other days.
Do you think that CrossFit is the greatest law enforcement version of working out?
It was for me. I mean, when I was going to a gym before it closed down, and I fell in love with it. You
Yeah.
know, and it was funny, all the CrossFit haters out there, but then you see all the gyms now have a high intensity
Yeah.
training, and it's like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the exact same thing.
and it's great because you can come out here and throw together a 15-20 minute wad or a
Mm-hmm.
21-15-9
Yep.
and fly through it, and you're just gassed. And
Yeah.
I feel so much better since I've been doing it.
Yeah. It's awesome. So,
It's not the same. Oh, it's back and buys, and let me go do
yeah.
3 sets of this. And like it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, All right. Well, we appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much,
Thank
Chris.
you
We
so
had a
much.
great time, and thanks again for having us.
Yeah, anytime.
And thanks, guys, for following us. And sorry for the delay in the 2 months it's been since our last recording. I've been on a bit of a debacle of time off and going places and family issues. So we appreciate you sticking with us, and stick with us some more.